Hi, it's Katrina! From ancient discs from a lost civilization to giant discs used as proof of visitors from another planet, here are 8 of the most mysterious discs discovered around the world. Number 8. Volgograd Discs. In late 2015, investigators from the Russian ufology and cryptozoology group Cosmopoisk announced the discovery of over a dozen large stone discs in southwest Russia's Volgograd region. The area is famous for strange sightings and weird phenomena, so the group went on an expedition to check it out. Vadim Chernobrov, one of Cosmopoisk's founders, reported to the Russian news website Bloknot Volgograd that most of the discs were 1 meter in diameter, but one stood out because it was double that, 2 meters in diameter. The discs allegedly contain tungsten, a high-density metal that was historically used in military technology. Some take this as proof that aliens exist. The UFO investigators claim that the discs could be about 1 million years old, and that they are most likely military drones that were damaged in an attack on Mars before falling to Earth. Some information is kind of missing from this scenario, but Scientists from the local museum are studying the largest stone disc so they can determine what it is really made of and how old it is. Their guess is that it is just the result of rocks shaped by erosion. What do you think? Natural or made by humans? Perhaps something else? Let me know in the comments below. Number 7. Dropa Stones. In 1938, an expedition set off to explore a little-known region in the Bayan Kara Ula Mountains on the border of China and Tibet. Near the summit of the mountains, they found a network of caves where the walls were decorated with images of people with elongated heads and representations of heavenly objects. The cave art reportedly depicted figures, perhaps people or gods, as well as the sun, moon, earth, and stars. Near the cave were rows of graves containing skeletons measuring just 4 feet tall on average, but with oversized heads. Along with this amazing discovery, and now perhaps the most famous, were the Dropa Stones. 716 circular stone discs about 1 foot in diameter with strange hieroglyphics. A man named Sum Nui claimed to have deciphered the discs in the early 60s, alleging that they dated back 12,000 years and contained stories about a spaceship driven by the Dropa people that crashed at the site. He was supposedly ridiculed for his work and went into self-imposed exile in Japan. In the late 60s, a Russian scientist named W. Zaitsev re-examined the discs and discovered that they had high concentrations of hard metals, including cobalt, which would have been difficult for ancient people to carve into. Another test Zaitsev conducted apparently showed signs that the discs had once been electrically charged or used as conductors of electricity. Nobody knows where the discs are kept now, and there's probably a good reason why. There are none available for public viewing, although there are some random pictures of the artifacts. It wouldn't be a strange thing for an ancient culture to have written on a stone. But the true version of events is likely much different than all of these claims assert, if they even happened. A particular story about ancient aliens visiting Earth and leaving signs of their existence began circulating years before the alleged discoveries, and was repeatedly republished several times before and after the reported finds. Moreover, the Dropa are indigenous people that live on the eastern Tibetan plateau, not the descendants of aliens. There are no official records of the first expedition into the mountains, and nobody knows if Sum Nui was even a real person. If this expedition did happen, perhaps they came across a lost civilization that we did not know existed, but because they didn't keep good records, the story of the caves and the stones took on a life of their own. Number 6. Schist Disc. Egyptologist Walter B. Emery removed what's known as the Schist Disc from a tomb in 1936. The disc is around 5,000 years old, dating back to ancient Egypt's first dynasty. The Museum of Cairo describes the object as an incense holder, which makes sense since it contains a central hole and resembles other items that appear to have been used for the same purpose. But not everyone agrees. While some people simply consider the object as having an unknown use, many conspiracy theorists have, of course, gotten on board with the idea that the disc is proof of ultra-advanced ancient technology possessed by the pharaohs, and that modern governments have hidden other evidence of them from the general public. Some believe, based on the disc, that the ancient Egyptians were using the wheel 1,500 years before its known development. Others think it's a steering wheel of some type. A few have gone as far as saying that the device is a prototype or a replica of the real metallic version that they believe once existed. Perhaps the most abstract claim of all is that the object was part of a spaceship. I mean, you can take this as far as you want to, clearly. Or, as originally theorized, it might just be an incense holder or some other practical everyday item. Way less exciting, but probably more realistic. What do you think? Number 5. Nebra Sky Disk. In 1999, treasure hunters armed with a metal detector discovered a bronze disc in Germany's Zeigelrode Forest, about 111 miles southwest of Berlin. The disc, which was found at a prehistoric enclosure, measures 12.6 inches in diameter and weighs 4.4 pounds. It's embossed with gold leaf and contains depictions of the moon, sun, and stars. The treasure hunters damaged the disc while removing it from the ground and tried selling it along with several other items they'd collected. Despite learning that the objects legally belonged to the state they were found in, they offered the disc to a Swiss archaeologist for $400,000 in 2003. The prospective buyer was employed as part of a police sting to catch the group and was merely posing as an archaeologist. The group was busted and the disc was handed over to the state of Sachsen-Anhalt. Upon examining the Bronze Age object, researchers determined that it's the oldest known guide to the heavens and that it may have been used to calculate planting and harvest times. In other words, it was an ancient astronomical clock of sorts. This theory makes sense, as agriculture was an imperative part of ancient people's lives, and knowing the time of year was a vital component to raising crops. For thousands of years, many monuments throughout northern Europe were built in alignment with the positioning of the sun during the summer and winter solstices. The disc may have fallen out of use and been discarded after a volcanic eruption on the Mediterranean island of Thera, modern-day Santorini. Following the eruption, ash blanketed the sky for several decades, obscuring the ancient people's view of the sun, and perhaps more importantly, causing them to question their faith in it. Number 4. Phaistos Disc. In 1908, Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier discovered a double-sided disc made of fired clay on the island of Crete in the Minoan palace of Phaistos. It contains a clockwise sequence of 241 tokens containing 45 distinct signs, starting in the center and spiraling outward. The disc was likely made by pressing hieroglyphic seals into soft clay. Two scholars have suggested that the disc is a hoax or a fake, but archaeologists generally accept it as an authentic Minoan artifact. Little is known about the object, however. Nobody has managed to decipher it or seems to agree on how old it is. Conflicting estimates date the disc as far back as 1850 to 1600 BC, the 2nd century BC, and after the year 1400. At the very least, many were impressed by what German typesetter and linguist Herbert Breckel and some others deemed the earliest known use of typographic or movable type printing, a technology which archaeologist and historian Jared Diamond believes didn't initially take off because it was invented at the wrong time in history. People just weren't ready. Number 3. The Genetic Disc. The Genetic Disc is a circular stone artifact that was supposedly discovered in a difficult-to-access region of Colombia by a professor named Jaime Gutierrez Luga, although nobody seems to know when. It weighs 4.4 pounds and measures 8.7 inches in diameter. Some theorize that the disc's carvings contain biological information, or perhaps a story about the development of a fetus, or another creature, such as a frog. A man named Klaus Dona somehow came into possession of the disc. Then, mineralogist Dr. Vera M.F. Hammer analyzed it at the Museum of Natural Sciences in Vienna, Austria. She reportedly determined that it was made of a hard black stone called lyddite and was unable to determine a precise date for its origin, but concluded that it appears to have been manufactured roughly 6,000 years ago by the pre-Columbian Muisca culture. But this isn't exactly what happened. In an interview with the website Kanaga, Dr. Hammer explained that she determined what the disc was made of, and that was it. She did not provide the other information she was rumored to give pertaining to the object's origins. The general consensus among experts and armchair explorers alike is that the disc is not real, especially given the vague story of its discovery. Nobody has connected the disc's alleged finder, Gutierrez Luga, to archaeology in any credible sense. In fact, not much is known about him, period, besides that he was an industrial designer with an artistic flair. Maybe he wanted to be a famous archaeologist and just couldn't make it happen. To add to that, Klaus Dona is reputed for possessing questionable artifacts that respected experts, including Hammer, have often suspected of being fake. He's also been unable to keep a straight story about the disc's discovery. If it were real, it would be pretty cool to have a record left behind by a lost people. Number 2. Swirling Ice Disk. In early 2019, a bizarre swirling ice disk measuring 300 feet in diameter formed in the Penobscot River near Westbrook, Maine. The discovery of the counterclockwise spinning disk led to much good-natured humor and probably some serious theories that it was created by aliens, possibly as a landing site for their spacecraft. The real explanation is a lot less exciting, but still pretty interesting. Experts explained that the disk was a large piece of river ice and that its edges were dulled from repeated collisions with floating debris and the shore, resulting in its circular shape. It's not an unheard-of phenomenon, according to hydrologist Ethan Gutman of the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder, Colorado, who stated in an interview with CNN that this tends to happen when big chunks of river ice break free and become caught in spinning currents. It gives the block of ice a push in this circular motion because underneath it on one side, the water is flowing faster, and on the other side it might be flowing slower or even upstream. Eventually you get something very close to a perfect circle, Gutman explained. Pretty cool, huh? Number 1. A crashed UFO? In late 2017, workers for a Russian coal mining company discovered a 440-pound, 4-foot-long stone disk 131 feet underground in the country's Volgograd region. Yes, the same area where the Cosmopoisk ufology and cryptozoology group found over a dozen stone disks. Soon enough, rumors began swirling about the disk being a crashed UFO and even containing alien remains. Skeptics were quick to point out that the object is clearly made of stone and incapable of flying. Archaeologists said to have examined the stone disk said it looked man-made. Hoaxbuster Scott Brando, who runs the website UFOofinterest.org, theorized that the disk was formed by concretion, a process when mineral cement precipitates into the spaces between minerals, forming a hard, compact mass of matter. The resulting mass is often ovular or spherical. Makes sense. Despite this likely explanation, conspiracy theorists clung steadfastly to the idea that the object was extraterrestrial in origin. Last I heard, it was on display at the Zernovsky Museum undergoing further testing. Thanks for watching! What did you think of these mysterious discs? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time! Bye!